So now it's time for Muppet of the month, or I suppose Muppets of the month this month. Because my choice is, well, different from yours, but also my choice isn't strictly
Not
speaking.
not so different, but we'll come to that
My one isn't strictly speaking archaeological. Rather, it's to do with the relationship that people have with scientific process, and also I have some
sometimes
genuine
distant relationships. Some people.
distant relationship. But boss, I have some genuine questions here. I really do that I want to try and understand. And the irony is, I'm never going to. Yeah, my scientific search, my search for truth, is never going to be satisfied in this instance. But I'm talking about Mad Mike Hughes, who has always, it seems, had a passion for, for space science. Interestingly enough, he had a desire to essentially have a self-funded little mini a space program, and try to fund that in a way that was all about passion for science, for science and for space and getting out there, seeing what's there. But people weren't interested in funding that, and it seems that he's had to fall back on a campaign funded by flat earthers.
Can
So
I
people,
just jump in there? Because is
yeah,
there not a basic problem with somebody? Uh, there's a basic issue understanding, isn't there, from somebody who switches from space science and a sector which is predicated on the Earth being round, where satellites go round it, and so and switching to people who believe that the Earth is flat and carried on the back of turtles or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It feels as though at some point this guy had a big
lost it.
change. I'm he had a
Sorry,
big change.
we've got to be absolutely fair. Okay?
He had a big change
There is a
of
scientific argument for the Earth being flat. It's a very short one, but there is a scientific argument for the Earth being flat. Yeah, go on.
he had. There isn't actually,
No, I know
but
there
he had. But the point is, my point is, he had a big change of heart in terms of the reason for going to space, when he saw that the flat Earth community would fund his rocket. So he raised about. Figures vary between 20,000 at the high end and $8,000 at the low end, to get a steam powered rocket on the back of a mobile home that's been converted into like a launch platform. And in that sense, I'm a big fan of tinkerers.
yeah.
I love people who do this sort of thing. And but
So long as they don't hurt anybody else. Yes.
yeah, and in this instance, there was going to be a live stream, pay per view that people could watch him sort of launch, and
And then plummet as
yeah,
the
probably.
Monty Python flying sheep did.
Oh, yeah, and as you say, spread himself out over a large area. In so much as his previous efforts actually have resulted in serious bodily injury for him.
That's not funny.
So he is very much a tinkerer, very much. But this is where the Muppetry comes in. This is where I just don't understand, because, and this isn't him. This is actually that community. Where's the benefit? I don't understand why people think, or why flat earthers think that somehow there is a benefit in anyone pretending that the Earth is a different shape to what it is. So let's just, if we follow that logic, that the Earth is in fact flat. I don't know where it comes from. Some people say it's a biblical thing, but then again, if you look into it, it's probably not a biblical thing. But let's say the Earth is flat, and for some reason, people, though, want to convince the world that the Earth is spherical. Well, that's dangerous. I mean, planes take off and land based on the theory that the Earth is a sphere. Weather models are put together based upon the idea that weather can travel around the sphere, and actually, for the most part, planes land safely, and weather is predicted with an acceptable degree of accuracy. Um, uh,
You realise, of course, that's all part of the conspiracy to hide the fact the Earth is. You re-
What conspiracy? Where's the like? There's no economic. Well, if you are a big fat cat, running your new world order, you know, where's the benefit in you want to make money from airplanes taking off and landing safely. You don't want to, like, I just
The point about the conspiracy. The point about the conspiracy, Mark, is that they know all this, and the fact that planes can take off and land is all adjusted for the fact the Earth is flat. It's just that they don't admit it to everybody else. All us poor saps think the Earth's round.
But at what point are you inducted? Like, at what point do you get, like, the secret sort of flat Earth? No, sorry, spherical Earth conspiracy handshake? Like, is it the pilot, or is it the guy who does the avionics, or like we're like just this? And this is why, this is why I'm not going to get any answers, because it is a conspiracy theory that's designed to self-perpetuate. It cannot be answered, and therefore that's the reason why people can buy into it.
And they get a sense of identity through sense of victimhood because people like us laugh at them.
I'm not laughing. I am not. Well, I am. No, I did. I'm laughing.
No, we are laughing a lot, actually.
No, I'm laughing because I feel as though I'm going a bit mad. I feel as though I'm going.
We're inside the looking glass, yes.
Yeah, and in particular, and the reason why I focused in on this story is not because I want to laugh at Mad Mike.
No.
I say I love.
Well, it is pretty funny.
It is kind of amusing, but no, I love tinkerers. I love people who are curious and who are driven to do their own experiments. And in this instance, that's essentially what he wanted to do. I just find it deeply tragic that he couldn't raise the money without seemingly, as it were, converting, scientific faith, as it were.
We're into the Werner von Braun argument here, aren't we? That possibly, I'm not saying he is. This is a pure speculation on my part, hypothetically, and I'm certainly not suggesting there's any political affiliations in play here. But one of the defences for Werner von Braun designing the V2 was that he wanted to build space rockets, and the Nazis were providing him funding to do his experiments.
Yeah.
That actually led to a pretty good one-liner when the film biography was made in the at the time of the American space program in the 1950s, 1960s, when von Braun was their lead designer. They made a Hollywood film of his autobiography, which was called "I Aim for the Stars." One it said the proper title should be "I Aim for the Stars, but sometimes I hit London by mistake." So basically, if someone's offering you the money, then you might just take it, and when you come back down and say, "Well, actually, sorry, I actually did see the curvature of the Earth up there, so actually you're wrong. The money's already been spent."
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, and actually, science is littered with similar sort of stories. When it comes to especially high-end potential for technology, when it comes to communication, weapons, and so on and so forth. That's true. But it is. I suppose I think it's tragic that there are people who are more willing to spend money on flat Earth theories than there are people willing to spend money on legitimate explorations of the and this is the other thing as well. They've invented words like atmosflat, the upper atmosflat. Like, anyway, so you might be curious, as many people were, as to what happened next with Mike Hughes and his efforts, and the U.S. Bureau of Landscape Management (BLM) reportedly stopped him from undertaking a launch on Saturday.
They're part of the conspiracy.
Sorry?
They're part of the conspiracy.
Yeah, they didn't want the truth getting out. No, apparently the reason being, essentially, it was to do with public safety. The launch was very close to Route 66, and it's unclear. It's unclear as to what the status was in terms of permits and this kind of thing. So the launch didn't go ahead. Is basically what I'm getting at. So watch this space and we'll see what happens. Anyway, moving on to your Muppet of the month.
My Muppet of the month. Actually, we talked about Blackadder. My Muppet of the month is Richard Berdajewicz. Okay. Richard Berdajewicz is a militaria collector.
Mm-hmm.
He's well known for it. and he was once investigated by the local police for trying to sell a hand grenade in his local pub. And very recently, he comes from Southampton.
Sorry. A hand grenade.
Yes, yeah. He was trying to sell a hand grenade in his local pub.
Okay.
It is alleged.
Okay.
But the reason I'm making him Muppet of the Month is he has just been convicted in Southampton Magistrates Court for trying to defuse a piece of ammunition which he found while he was out on one of his collecting expeditions at Hurst Spit.
Right.
To quote from the news report of the trial, he believed that the First World War explosive device was a practice bomb, but prosecutor Ryan Severante told the court that when he took an angle grinder to it in June 2016, it began fizzing and banging like a Roman candle firework.
Because it's an incendiary device,
It was a device. Southampton Magistrates Court heard that concerned neighbours called the police after hearing the explosion at around 1:30 p.m.
Oh dear.
Mr. Severante said that the bomb launched into the air and scorched the back garden, fence and house. He added, Mr. Badajevic thought it was not a live shell because it had P on it. He did a Google search and said that other bombs like this are practice shells if they have a P on it. He put the angle grinder through it and there was a heavy banging.
Oh dear. And so, and presumably, I mean, if it went into the air, because like mortar shell, my understanding, I might be wrong, of World War One mortar shells is that they are designed to spread fires. So they sort of break up and.
It depends on the type. The point here is, there's the joke in Blackadder when George asks Blackadder, he thinks he's just trod on a mine. He says, "What's the normal procedure?" And Blackadder says, "Oh, it's to leap several feet in the air and spread yourself over a wide area." That's what our man was doing. But the serious point for raising him. I mean, obviously a complete muppet.
Well, in so much, I mean, and just to be clear, in so much as he could have burned down the neighbourhood.
He could have killed himself or seriously injured himself and his neighbours. He could have, the damage. Something. There's a case that I'm aware of in France where somebody doing exactly the same thing in their garage not only killed themselves but spread their collection of unexploded munitions around the local village, and the gendarmerie was about a week tidying it all up and finding all the stuff.
Blimey, okay.
Yeah, so this actually is quite a serious point, and in fact the really serious point is he's a member of a group who deliberately set out to collect this stuff.
Right.
It's we've recently had a case where a couple of collectors were hospitalised for picking up what's alleged to have been mustard gas munitions in Norfolk, I think it was, and there've been other cases. In fact, there was a second case of a collector who was up in front of the courts in St Albans last year. So this is it's a known problem. This just happens to be a particularly bizarre expression of it.
Just briefly, presumably is it an economic benefit? Is that what's worth the risk in terms of handling a mustard gas? I'm
on part of the mustard gas one because that's still going through legal process, so I don't want to comment on it directly.
Oh, okay. But hypothetically, in terms of handling an exploded ordnance, is that what it is?
From what I understand, I've done a fair amount of work on this. There's not been a lot of academic work on this particular aspect of collecting at the moment. There are two things in play. One is general collecting and the thrill of the chase, and it's an indiscriminate desire to collect a particular thing. In this case, items of ammunition. So it's a personal thing, and wouldn't necessarily be something stuff that's being sold.
Not necessarily something that people shell out for.
Boom, boom.
Way!
Did you see what I said? Did you hear what I said? That boom, boom. Anyway, no. There's the indiscriminate thrill of wanting to collect, and then there's the illicit thrill, we think, of people wanting to collect something that's a little bit edgy, a little bit dangerous. It's a macho thing. It's we saw it in Nazi war diggers with the fetishization of the guns and the ammunition.
Yeah, this thing could chop you in half from 3,000 meters.
Exactly that.
Okay.
And it plays to a particular that kind of thing plays to a particular audience. Whereas an archaeologist, when I'm working if I work on a site, and where colleagues work on sites where munitions do turn up, and we have to make quite stringent safety precautions, make sure quite stringent safety precautions are in place to be able to deal with that kind of situation. They are part. If you've got the right person on board, they can be part of the finds assemblage, and they can tell you about what was going on in a particular place and what who was there, and lots of other things. Here, this is just collecting it because it looks like a bomb and it had P written on it, so it was a practice one, so it's all right.
But I suppose there's one final thing I just mentioned as far as that goes, though, is that there is an affinity, though, that we have to accept between archaeologists and collectors. We all believe, in that sense, in the power of the physical artifact and object. We understand and we revere these things, and we look after them, and we then part ways when it comes to what we then do next. Archaeologists study, share, and publish, and try and understand a bigger story. Collectors simply continue to essentially to be stuck at that moment with the thing, going, "Oh, look at the thing,"
Absolutely.
So there is an affinity there, which I think is worthwhile acknowledging. Is that we love this? We love the stuff as well.
Oh, absolutely, and exactly. It's like anything. We're all somewhere on the spectrum, to coin a phrase. But I just think in this case it show. I'm really highlighting it, partly because it's bizarre, and partly because it is a serious issue. I mean, it did end up in a court case. There is, the man now has a record. There's a suspended sentence. I think it was hanging over him, and he. There we are. Yes, 8 weeks imprisonment, suspended for 12 months plus costs. So there's a serious element to this as well. This is illegal activity, and he got caught and quite rightly. He's been tried and convicted. In fairness, we have to say that he told the court, "I'm a military enthusiast and collector. I'm not a terrorist. What happened was an accident." You could argue that taking an angle grinder to a munition is an accident waiting to happen. And in fact, I think your insurance company might say you had some liability if you did try to claim on it. So probably didn't have much chance of claiming for his garden shed. No,
which is a shame. We all love our sheds as well.
Absolutely tragic. Sheds, tinkering, nothing wrong with it. I do it myself. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Not with live munitions.
No.